If you had told me this 20 years ago, I would have never believed you. But I do think now, today, the GOAT is the OG. It's cornflakes. Cornflakes is the best.
Over Frosted Flakes?
Yes.
I just take that extra little bit of sugars, you know what I mean?
I mean, his favorite sexual position is missionary with his wife, so that tells you everything he needs to know. God bless him. He's a good guy. But bowl of cornflakes waiting for his quick finish.
The only flavors I like in my cereal are vanilla.
Yeah.
Hey, but I do it with oat milk, guys. I do it with oat milk.
Oh, wow. Pinkies up, huh?
Oh my
Pinkies up.
God.
Tell us about some bands that only you have
Wait,
heard
we're
of,
talking about
bro.
missionary, right?
Yeah. Oat milk and missionary.
Wow.
Oat milk and missionary sex. That's what we're up to these days, boys.
Sights and sounds and edges found. You will now get down with the Underground, the show that goes to the depths of the Dynasty landscape. This is the Dynasty Underground, posted up on the Undroppables YouTube channel. I am Trav, hosting, West Coasting, and the three of us right now are Startup Draft boasting.
Ooh.
Because the Underground League has kicked off, ladies and gentlemen. And with me, of course, the UN Miyagi, Jack's fully on Falcone. Holler at your boy, my man.
What's going on, buddy? I'm pretty excited. I'm actually
Turn up,
OTC.
Yes.
OTC.
OTC.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Hurry up, bro.
Yeah, hurry up, bro.
Yeah.
Bro, the hurry up,
Like a pig?
bro. Hold up.
If we don't get a pick soon, I swear to God, I'm gonna fart in my dog's mouth.
Yes. Well, there are some
Jackson.
things that have been said, like throwing babies off a bridge and things like that.
Whoa,
It has been
hey, allegedly.
one of the best league chats ever. The threats of what will happen if a pick is not made soon. That has been the best highlight of the league.
Yeah, my best one was, guys, if there's not a pick made soon, I will impregnate my wife again.
Yes.
And for those of you who don't know, I have 4 children, so nobody
thought it was
fucking
5.
wants that.
Sorry.
So please don't put that on me. Please don't put that on me, Jax, and make your fucking pick.
Yep. I'm not making it right now.
What are you talking about?
Not right this second. No. Go ahead. Introduce.
We got
introduce
tease. We got
Joe Quavian.
tease.
Okay.
Let's
Not right this second.
As I nurse these blue balls,
You're
of
welcome.
course. Yes.
Go grab your
Pinkies
wife,
up.
would you?
Yeah, pinkies up, boys. Pinkies up, boys. The aristocrat, Joquavius Kuvatakis. How you doing tonight, brother? I know you're feeling fired up for this startup.
I'm looking out my window right now, and it looks like there's a lost puppy out there.
Yep.
And I will do absolutely nothing about it until Jax makes his pick.
Yeah. You know what?
Hang in there.
You know what, Jax?
Yep.
If you don't make this pick soon, I'm going to make the listeners listen to complete silence. I would never do that to you guys. Don't worry. No matter how long Jax took, I would not put you through that. But that is how paramount it is for us and the rest of our league mates to get these picks made, because we're having a lot of fun in there. Like Jax said, the group chat is phenomenal. So shout out to all the boys. And we are going to do a little bit of recap there later. Jax talking about,
Yes.
we're through 4 rounds. We just got into the 4th, I believe. And so we're going to recap some of that towards the back end of the show. Yeah, subscribe to that YouTube channel for all of our listeners. Just want to make sure that I let you know that, because that's where all of our stuff is. And of course, I want to mention the Discord channel. It is free and it is bumping. There's a lot of chatter going on in there. So please check that out if you want to keep up on all of our content, as well as get into the chat with all of us. Shout out to the boys in there for keeping it active. Curdy, Derek, and Coder are specifically really active. And of course, all of the members, because there's tons of conversation happening. You hop in there at any time of day, Jax. We're West Coasters. I hop in at, I call it West Coast nights, midnight, which is like 3 a.m. for those East Coasters, and there's still conversation happening in there. So yeah, it's been fun. Been really cool to see it grow. And then along with that listener league, of course, we're going to talk about that. But guys, we got to finish off some of these rankings with the quarterbacks. We're going to talk about some ideal fits, players that we like to land in certain spots, and we're going to hype up the UN score, gentlemen. So this is going to be a really fun episode. The pre-show was an absolute blast. We were already howling, ladies and gentlemen. And without further ado, guys, we're going to talk about these quarterbacks and finish off the rankings, because we did the wide receivers, we did the tight ends, we did the running backs last week, which was a ton of fun. And now we're going to polish it off with the quarterbacks. Really fun news as well for anybody who is not a part of our Patreon. We dropped our pre-draft rookie rankings. So the three of us, as well as Jay Wood, also known as Coder, you'll hear us just calling him Coder. That's Jay Wood. He's a part of the rankings team as well, and you'll see his positional rankings in there, as well as all of our overall rankings for one quarterback and Superflex. So if you're part of the Patreon, check that out. Join the Discord though too, because I'm going to drop the positional rankings for each of the four of us in there. And shout out to Jay for being a part of it too. I want to get his name out there, guys, because we're working to get him on the mic. He is a very important part of the machine that we've got going. And so, yeah, check out those rankings through the Patreon or through the Discord. So enough of that yapping, enough sweet nothings here, fellas. The quarterbacks are an interesting group. It's a fairly small group of ones that are relevant. I would say 4 for me are relevant, and then the rest are probably dark horses. The most cemented, I would say, is Cam Ward at number 1 to the Tennessee Titans. All signs pointing towards that. Nothing has seemed to waver off of that. But after Cam Ward is where it really gets interesting, guys. Like, we've seen some Shadur Sanders sliding happening. Jackson Dart seems to be on the end of a yo-yo string as far as his draft position. And we even saw in Todd McShay's recent draft that you sent us in the group chat, Jax, Jalen Milroe is getting some potential first-round buzz. Obviously, the tools are there, but what do you think just overall about the class and what you're thinking as far as where they're going to land? Joe, let's start with you. And why don't you start with Shadur and some of that slide talk we're seeing?
Well, I'll get to Shadur in a second, but since we
Mhm.
mentioned Jay and Coder, I just want to mention a tweet he sent today. He said, "We're when trying to evaluate QB prospects, there are two clear best options: Brett Whitefield on the film side and Jim Sonis on the analytical side. Both have Jackson Dart as QB1. He's also QB1 in my model by a good margin." I want to bring that up just because Jim Sonis very famously had Jaden Daniels as QB1 last year when consensus, deafeningly was for Caleb Williams. Whitefield, obviously a great film guy. We've all discussed it as well. So, I don't have the stones to put Dart ahead of Ward because I'm a
Same.
little bit of a slave to draft capital. But I do have him at number 2, and I was joking about it 3 months ago, but like I've kind of just kept him firm at number 2 the whole time. And it's interesting that that's kind of the way things have actually played out, is like Ward, Dart, and now Shador's fallen to number 3. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that it is still very firmly, maybe most strongly right now, lying season. So I've never bought the Shador is sliding and he's cocky and he's falling and all of this nonsense, right? I think there's still a very good chance. I still think he's like the odds-on favorite to go to the Giants at pick 3. So I don't know what to believe. I think they're all going in the first round, and hell, it's sounding like we may even have a 4th QB in the first round. But QB evaluation is probably the thing I'm least comfortable commenting on because analytics doesn't capture it very well, not nearly as well as we can capture other positions and certain characteristics. And so, if they're a first round pick, they're kind of a 50-50 proposition, and that's sort of just the way it is, regardless of all the data says about these guys.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We tend to think that we might have a leg up. I mean, and we don't. We don't. We have a leg up at wide receiver. We probably have a little bit of a leg up at at running back and tight end. But really, the analytics does nothing for us. We don't really get much. By the way, Josh Norris of Underdog, who I really like. I really like Josh a lot, and I like his analysis. He put out a little video saying Jalen Milroe was his quarterback 2 in the class. Says he does a lot of quarterback stuff really well. He had a nice line in his tweet that encapsulated Jalen Milroe. He can make the right play wrong and the wrong play right. Right. So I think that says a lot about who he is, and why the film guys don't really like him is because a lot of times he can make what seems to be a clean play ugly. But boy, oh boy, he can make an ugly play look pretty good too, eh? So I think that's where Jalen Milroe is. And in terms of the rankings, I mean, It really does depend on what flavor you're looking for. I think Shador has a very sort of low ceiling, as it were. I mean, every quarterback has enough ceiling if they throw 50 touchdown passes and become Tom Brady, which analytically he's as good as Tom Brady was as a prospect. I mean, in other words, these guys basically just coming out. There's no way of knowing exactly which guy you're getting. 198, times they passed over Tom Brady. They've passed over other quarterbacks in the past. Brock Purdy's a starter and a valuable one at that, and he was Mr. Irrelevant. So to Joe's point, we missed this quite a bit. But I think as far as we can see the traits, and then that's one thing that we can talk about is traits. And as we look at those traits, I think I see, Jackson Dart with enough rushing upside that I have him over Shador Sanders as long as the draft capital's close. So I have Jackson Dart at quarterback 2. I think there's enough consensus that I think they're really, really close. I think when we see a lot of mock drafts, that is fantasy mock drafts, rookie mocks, we see Shador and Jackson Dart go back to back. I was just on the show with Theo Greminger. He said he did a rookie draft where they did go back to back right around the turn. I think pick 11 and 12, they both went pre-draft, super flex, tight end premium. They went 11 and 12 back to back. Jackson Dart first in that particular real money rookie draft with sharps. So I think that's about where their value is right now, but I just prefer Jackson Dart over Shador. And look, if Jalen Milroe gets enough draft capital, he could sneak up in this conversation. Right now, he's a firm 4th, but that's only based off projected draft capital. If you told me all of these guys were drafted in the top 15, I'd have to rethink this all.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Milroe, it's wild because it would set things ablaze to see him go that high in the draft, especially for our super flex drafts. We're much more interested in him at that point. And I think everything that you described him as previously, Jax, was basically Jalen Hurts, right? Guy that can make the bad play good and the good play bad, of course. And I think definitely in the realm of possibilities. I think the thing with Jalen Hurts is that he just landed within the perfect storm, right? And so Jalen Milroe needs to land within the absolute perfect storm. And my rankings are the same. Yeah. Pittsburgh would be very, very interesting. I think he could be very insulated in a lower volume passing offense, and he could give us some of what we saw glimpses of Justin Fields give us last season, hoping he can stay accurate as a passer, but he does have a couple of towers on the outside in Pickens and DK Metcalf. So ideal situation. And if you're looking at when Pittsburgh might need to pull the trigger, it could be that first round as opposed to waiting until kind of the mid to back second round where he might be gone.
Trading back, whatever the case, right? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. It's been interesting. Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, my sort of North Star with quarterbacks, given that, there's so much data and the hit and miss rates that we've talked about already, my sort of North Star, it kind of goes back to something you always say, Jax, which is it's always 3rd and 7, right? Yeah. It's always 3rd and 7. Who's the dude that's going to keep a job for the longest? And I kind of lean Jackson Dart as the safest play because of his under pressure stats. He's far and away the best quarterback when facing pressure in this class, and that ain't going to change. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's a good sign that they could do that at the college level, that they could, that will translate to the NFL. Cam, I feel like I have just this he's a little bit of a gunslinger. Like, is he just Jameis Winston 2.0, right? He's got like the arm angles and he's not afraid to sling it. And like, he's fun as hell. Don't get me wrong. But it's like, I kind of am getting those vibes, which is going to be good for fantasy for a while. Who's going to keep a job for the longest? So I don't know. Floor plays with quarterbacks, you really don't want to miss, right? So I kind of think that both Shador and Jackson Dart are better floor plays, but that Cam is the higher ceiling play.
Yeah, I feel like I get this wrong every year, so I'm definitely not Mr. Listen to me on these quarterbacks. One thing I will say, right? I mean, one thing I would say though, is if those of you are listening are playing in a 1 quarterback league, I think you can almost disregard the class entirely and not even draft a quarterback. There's really no quarterback with upside. I mean, you could say maybe Jackson Dart and Jalen Milroe. But I think where Cam Ward will go in a single quarterback league, I would definitely be passing. Because he's probably in the second round at some point, I would guess. I don't play much one quarterback, and when I do, I really don't even pay too much attention. If I need a quarterback, I'm not going to do it in the draft necessarily, unless it's a Jaden Daniels type. I'm in a one quarterback league where I have Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson. Those are my two quarterbacks, and it was like I had Lamar, and I was like, just push the button on this Jaden Daniels. Like if I hit this, I don't ever need another quarterback in that league for a long period of time. But if there were another Jaden Daniels type player in that league, in a league like that or that league, I'd pick him again because their trade value is pretty steep. So I don't see that type of prospect. I mean, Jackson Dart a little bit upside, Cam Ward sure, Jalen Milroe I guess, but the odds of him hitting are so low that it'd have to be a really late pick. So I would definitely be fading almost for like 25 running backs or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. Let other people take those quarterbacks. And to your point, Jax, the only guy that I would even take a shot on is Jalen Milroe, because the hit as an ultimate hit is what you're looking for as a starting quarterback in a one quarterback league. But that's only if he's about like a 4th round rookie pick, right?
Exactly.
You're taking running backs previous to that.
Yeah.
And if somebody takes him ahead of that, you're just happy for the guy that fell to you. So
bingo.
I think that's
exactly
the take
right.
there. You're going for ultimate upside in a one quarterback league, which usually is the Konami upside. And the only guy that presents that really is Jalen Milroe here.
Yeah.
Fun conversation, boys. I figured we might as well, because there could be a couple of names that definitely get drafted. Any dark horses on your list that you might be keeping an eye of? I know we said one quarterback, we're not looking at any of the top 4 guys. So obviously these guys are even further off the board, but Superflex leagues, taking shots and putting these guys on some of our taxi leagues is not terrible. That's where we had a guy like Spencer Rattler who gave us some pretty important starts down the stretch last year. Any dark horses on your list, Joe?
I'd say, I'm kind of where I started, in that I think Will Howard is the one that interests me most. And I don't know, I'm trying to think of a scenario in which I would actually even draft him, because even in the fourth round, there's running backs I like more.
There it is.
Yeah.
And like all those wide receivers that we're kind of writing off for these running backs, that's where I want to take them, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So that's like all those sketchy wide receivers that with the questionable profiles, like 4th round, I'm interested again.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't see a scenario where I'm actually pulling the trigger. I mean, maybe 5th round. Like I've got one league where I got like 3 5th round picks. One of those is gonna be a Will Howard if he's still there,
Yeah.
Or the
I
UDFA
totally
bloodbath,
correct.
right?
I totally agree with this take that, yes. So the old saying with Scott Connor is any quarterback and a backup, any backup on a 32, right? Like if you're an ACL away from starting, multiple games at the quarterback position, you have value. If you're not, I don't know. I mean, I'm taking 3rd string quarterbacks in a rookie draft.
You have to be Jalen Milroe as a 3rd stringer, and he has to be somebody who you just get as a free agent on the waiver wire, right?
But I'm not taking any of the 5 through whatever ranked quarterbacks in this draft, lest they have a path to actual playing time, unless they're a backup. And so if they're a backup, they have value. But again, I am specifically only taking the value as it falls. I'm not reaching in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I'm prioritizing 20 running backs. We went through this. I had Memphis on the show today, and he was talking about taking these quarterbacks late, and I kind of was like, I didn't feel so good about it. And I was thinking, what are all the players that I'm definitely taking ahead of any of these quarterbacks? And it's like, there's 20 running backs, there's 10 wide receivers, there's 5 tight ends, and 4 other quarterbacks. That's somewhere around 40.
Yeah.
So 40. So we're talking, late 4th round is when I might start to consider the quarterback 5, which is he's probably gone, which means I'm getting better players. I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting, like he says, till the 5th round or UDFA, where I'm like, you know what? I'll take Tyler Shuck here. I mean, again, this is saying that they're day 3 draft picks. If one of these guys gets steamed into like, if Shuck goes late round 2 to someplace there where he's a backup, that's different. That's different, because that's a guy who could get in there and could play right away. Like the Jets draft Tyler Shuck in the 2nd round or the early 3rd or something.
The Jets take
like,
Will Howard.
No, that's that's different. That's different.
That's exactly what I was going to say too. I was like, the one exception is if one of these guys go to the Jets in like round 2
or the Browns.
Yeah, or the Browns. I
Yeah.
mean, we'll see what happens with the Browns. I tend to think they're gonna do something with Cousins
Yeah.
or someone, but
Yeah.
like the Jets seem like the ones that are like not taking a quarterback, and so there's gonna be a second round pick there, and like the play, even if they do take one of these guys, is like you get him, and once he's announced the starter, you probably just trade him right there and try
Yeah.
and improve around on draft capital, like
Yep.
right then and there. Like, hey, this dude's starting games, he might be the guy. Get a first out of him, get a early second out of him, whatever
Yep.
it is. But like that is just a process play. Take the dude that gets drafted by the Jets and then trade him as soon as there's good news.
That's right. And that can be done with a quarterback or a running back. Really no
Yeah.
other position,
Yep.
because a running back could be Carson Steele, it can be Isaac Guerrero, it can be Patrick Taylor, it can be all those Chiefs running backs and Niner running backs that got a chance to play, Jordan Mason, etc., where they were third, fourth, fifth round picks in your rookie draft. They're starting, they're worth a second or more. Same thing with a quarterback. As soon as a quarterback gets put into the lineup, that can't happen at the wide receiver position unless you hit the ultimate Puka Nacua outlier. That's the only way. And really, that's not a very good pick. If you might as well light it on fire. You got to take a running back in that situation, even if he's the 20th ranked running back on your board.
Yeah. So basically, everybody after 4, there's an exit strategy, and don't get too cute. Move
No.
them when the stock goes up.
Okay, guys, we are shifting gears into some ideal player and team fits. This was kind of a fun exercise to go through. It got me to take a look at like the full draft order, which was pretty sweet to kind of see it and lay it out a little bit better. And yeah, there are some interesting ones. And we talked about it, boys. We're going to go with some kind of common players that are going to be getting drafted and getting some buzz. We're not going to be going fully off the board here. We'll save that for another day. We want to make sure it's stuff that, you want to listen to. So I'm starting with my first one. And Joe, I'm pulling directly on your heartstrings right off the bat, fella. And I am going to talk about Ashton Genty going to the Raiders at pick 6. I think it's the most common mocked pick, so I'm not like going off the board here or being contrarian with it, but I just think it's such a perfect fit. I know it's weird to go for a running back in the top 10. It does happen in these generational instances, and time will tell if Ashton Genty is one of those. But thinking about Pete Carroll coming in for the Raiders, like he's just the kind of guy that Ashton Genty would be perfect for. He wants to run the ball a lot. He wants to insulate his quarterback and have a bit of a safe passing game along with an explosive running game. And I think Ashton Genty can give him that. The guy that was, of course, the biggest running back that we love from Pete Carroll's days was Marshawn Lynch. Obviously a bit bigger than one Ashton Genty and not quite the pass catcher, but Ashton Genty can do a lot of those things plus for Pete Carroll. And with a quarterback who can deliver like Geno Smith, I think that they're aching for a guy who can do what he can, because that way Geno Smith's not going to get exposed. You can funnel those targets to Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers, and you don't have to try and force a third option into that. I think it's perfect. Joe, I know you have mixed feelings potentially on how it could fit. So, Jax, I'm going to start with you, and why don't you kick it to Joe for him to finish off this Raiders talk and get into his next fit?
I don't know that I'll make it quick. I don't know that the Raiders are my like Ashton Genty dream landing spot. I mean, Ashton Genty is awesome. I mean, and no shade. I mean, none of the teams at the top, including my New England Patriots, are the best landing spot for a running back. So this isn't an anti-Raider slander, but I'm just saying like none of those teams. So maybe the Bears, but I think actually the 49ers would be the ultimate landing spot for Genty. Now year one would be rough and maybe they'd trade McCaffrey or something like that. That'd probably be the way that it makes sense. But like, then you're talking about like, that's the absolute perfect fit for Genty.
Of course. Of
Well,
course.
you said
I was going with a realistic thing with what we know now.
it is
In a
realistic.
place that Genty could go. Yeah, they would have to put a massive deal together to get up to pick him.
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that Genty is specifically going to not fall. I mean, there's a lot of other good players. And if I'm the Raiders, first of all, I'm not drafting Ashton Genty if I'm the Raiders. I mean, I can't imagine that you would, say that that's a good play, Joe, would you?
From a process standpoint, no, you can never really say a running back in the top 10 is like a quality pick.
Right. Especially in a
I
deep
mean,
class.
Yeah, in a deep class for sure. And I still suspect, frankly, that Chip Kelly is going to want to take Quinshawn Judkins or Travion Henderson at the top of that second round. And we might go a different direction with this first pick, mainly a receiver. And if it's Golden, I will maybe retire as a Raiders fan. But so, anyways, so like I'm not completely sold on Jancy to the Raiders. In terms of like fit, yes, there's no team in the NFL that Janty doesn't fit on, right? If you put him on the Eagles, you'd be like, well, he's going to take a pretty big bite out of Saquon's workload, right? Like there's no team you put him on or he's not carving out a role. He's that undeniable. So, and I also don't think there's any sort of scheme that he won't work in. So you guys are talking about him going to like the Niners and Shanahan. It's like, yeah, sure, he'd work there. He'd work in every scheme.
Sure.
There are dudes that fit that system maybe better from a stylistic standpoint than Janty does. But like, yes, like there's no team he doesn't fit on. But yeah, I mean, listen, if the Raiders get him, I'm not going to be sad about it. I'm going to be pretty happy and excited to watch him for the next few years. I mean, here's my I guess my parting thought is, at the very least, if we do it, it is one of our greatest holes that we need to fill. And so might as well do it with like a dope running back. But the last time we did it was like with Darren McFadden in, what was that, 2007? Right. And that didn't work out all that well. So I don't know. I'd prefer we take a wide receiver in the first round and nab running back in the second. But I flip flopped on this back and forth.
I think Ashton Genty does more to your team than any wide receiver, even if you move back and take one in the first round, though, right? Like if we look at these running backs who have gone in the top 10 over the last, like, say 10 years, definitely post McFadden, they changed their teams. And I think Ashton Genty is one of those guys who can do that. And so I think we look at the holes that they have on defense. Ashton Genty running the rock and eating up clock can cover up some of those holes that they have on defense, right? So I think he can do a lot more than just be a really good running back for that team. And so that's why I think it is the perfect fit. And let's be honest, for a team that's been shit, that puts some asses in seats.
You hit the nail on the head, though. If they're going to take him at 6, they should trade down to 9 and let the Saints trade up and take their quarterback. And maybe the Bears take him, maybe they don't. That's another great fit for Janty, by the way. There's
Got
no
to stay
bad
ahead
fit.
of the Bears. Got to stay ahead of the Bears.
But yeah, I mean, we'll see. But anyways, I'd just say trade back and settle for Judkins in the second if you can't get Janty in the first. And but anyways,
there's
not a Raiders show. There's not a Raiders show.
Check out Raiders Uncovered on our other channel, by the way, uncovered_NFL. Biggs is doing good work over there on Raiders Uncovered and all the boys for their teams.
That's right. And little teaser, I'm actually gonna see one Mr. Brendan Booth, aka Jameer Biggs, tomorrow in Davis, California. We're gonna premiere a new show for him, which I'm pretty excited about.
Love it.
But so in terms of, let's stick with running back. My ideal sort of dream landing spot is Omarion Hampton going to the Denver Broncos. I've seen this mock quite a bit, and it doesn't surprise me. I think, I don't know, like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, when we started talking about these top 5 RB prospects, I mentioned how Hampton reminded me of Kamara with his contact balance and his skill set. Maybe he's not quite the receiver that Kamara is, but the way he runs just made me think Kamara. And so seeing Hampton go to the Broncos, and that's right about the sweet spot where he should go and where it makes sense to start taking running backs in the first rounds, just makes all the sense in the world. Like you can't convince me. Like I saw it from the moment I watched him play, the Kamara flashes, and Sean Payton, I'm sure, sees it too.
Yeah, no, I love that pick to Omarion Hampton, and I think he'd be a massive replacement for Javonte Williams, especially, and really take them to the next level as well. So love that. Honorable mention too, almost had it on my list, Omarion Hampton to the Washington Commanders at the back of the first round as well would be a nice little pick. I'd hate that for my Brian Robinson shares because I do believe in B-Rob, but can't deny Omarion Hampton. He's going to be sick. Jax, get into it.
I got a spicy one. So, excuse me. Let's just say that like Ted McMillan goes 8 to the Panthers, which makes some sense for them. And let's just say the real wide receiver one in this class, Matthew Golden, goes 12 to the Cowboys. That would create a little bit of space for this to seem realistic. But at 15 to the Falcons, Luther Burden goes to the Falcons to play with Michael Penix and Drake London. You're telling me that you're not tuning in for that show?
Tuning in for that for sure. Zach Robinson at the helm as well. I like that.
Bijan, the whole thing. That would be
Totally.
sickness.
Just drafted Bijan and Penix in that startup, so I'm all for it, Jax. Sign me
Joe,
up.
do you need to go change your pants, or are you good with this? What do you think?
I was just gonna say my one remaining share of Kyle Pitts is screaming into the pillow right now at the thought at the thought of Burden going to the Falcons.
Yes, it's true.
I mean, that would actually be pretty dope, though. That would be a very nice pairing. I actually had a Burden one too. This is great. We didn't talk about this ahead of time. I had a Burden landing spot too. It's funny we picked the same guy. My dream landing spot for Burden is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh,
so you got I think
type of story.
I think
pretty
Thor.
similar.
I think Thor incepted this into my brain because he put out like a 2-round mock draft for every team, and I think I saw it there first. So credit to Thor Nystrom, who we love. But think about it: target void with Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk gone. You've got BTJ and Gabe Davis kind of clearing things out over the middle, right? For this guy to eat underneath in this sort of slot flanker sort of hybrid role that he's going to play. Plus, he could get some carries in that offense. But then he's also going to be playing a little bit of the Godwin role in the new offense that's being installed, which is very much slot. A little bit outside, but very much slot. Yak. This is exactly what he's built for. This is like the perfect team scheme fit with the complementary pieces around him. Burden on the Jags would not only make me excited about Burden, it'd make me really freaking excited about Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah, that's a guy who can kind of insulate the shortcomings of Trevor Lawrence along with Brian Thomas Jr. And we would be much more interested in that Jags offense with another piece. Otherwise, I'm really kind of only interested in BTJ right now. Very interested at that. But yeah, that would bring them to the forefront for sure.
The other one I've got is Jaden Higgins to the Patriots at pick 38.
Love that.
Obviously just having Diggs and Jaden Higgins would be great. And then one other, of course, just all my favorite players. Pick 66, which is the second pick of the third round for the Kansas City Chiefs. They go ahead and take one running back and one running back only, RJ Harvey, in the beginning of the third. Just to
that'd be
clear
pretty
all
sick.
down.
That would be pretty sick. Yeah.
I'm pretty interested. I want the Chiefs to take Damian Martinez, but that's just I just think he gets smashed. But Trav, give us another one.
Funny that you guys are like giving the Chiefs the big boys like that. I would think that they would be guys where you'd be giving them like the Travion type deals.
I don't think the Chiefs want to dump off to the running back. I think they want the running back to just smash the defense and wear the defense out. That's kind of what it seems like. When they want the explosives, they hand it to a wide receiver. They've got Xavier Worthy. They've got Rashee Rice. They do this with the short passing game, right? They want the running back to beat up the other team. That's how they've used Kareem Hunt. That's what Isaiah Pacheco is. So, it's nice if they can catch, but I don't know. I'm just imagining Mahomes just, audibling out of his passes and just going to a run up the middle and Martinez just smashing dudes. Now,
it'd be sick.
Harvey can do that too. Don't get me wrong, but there's like lots of guys that would fit on the Chiefs in that role.
Yeah. Right, Jax? Everybody, right, Jax?
Yes.
Jarquez Hunter.
Jarquez. Yeah. I'm trying to
Jarquez
find
on the Chiefs would be sick.
Yes, yeah. It would. By the way, it would be sick. Jarquez is good. What was the tweet we saw today? Your boy
Zare. Yeah.
From Zare, man. That was fucking badass.
Leads the all prospects in between the tackles runs with I think it was 8 yards per carry.
Something like that.
For carries between the tackles. Right. That's ridiculous. That's a lot to his point. Shout out Z. We love you.
Yes,
that's a lot of freaking signal.
Yep.
Yeah. Totally.
All right, Trav, give us another one.
Okay, my next one, and again, Jack's same as you, like player that I love, right? Colston Loveland, the spot. We've been talking about this spot since probably before the Chad from Texas episode. Colston Loveland to the Los Angeles Chargers with pick number 22. Remains to be seen if he lasts to that pick. I think Tyler Warren's draft slot will have a lot to do with maybe where Colston Loveland ends up going, but I like the fit with the Chargers. I think there could be a little bit of redundancy with your guys' boy Ladd there, being that Colston Loveland should man some of the slot, but I think they can coexist with that flanker role for Ladd, and then Colson Loveland playing a little bit of inline, which I am confident that he can do. So I really like that pick. I think the Chargers, regardless, are aching for another target for one Justin Herbert. I know they brought back old Mikey Dubs, but I don't think he's going to be the guy to do it. And I think Colson Loveland absolutely can be that for the Chargers. And if we look at Cooper DeJean and Reed Blankenship on the Eagles, I think Colson Loveland and Ladd McHonkey would be another tandem of exciting whites for the LA Chargers.
If
First
only
of
we
all,
can
don't
get
worry.
Jack Besh there in the 4th round or something.
No doubt.
No,
Oh,
Besh is
fuck.
going to the Rams, guys. Besh is
Yeah.
going to the Rams.
Right.
We all know
Right.
it. We all
You know,
know
To
it.
fulfill the prophecy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's perfect. It's too perfect. Don't worry about Ladd's targets, by the way. I don't care who's on his team. He's gonna do just fine, my
You know-
friend.
Yeah.
Don't you worry about our boy
Oh,
Ladd.
this just in. Ladd McConkey currently open.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I got one more. This one, I don't know. I'm kind of cheating, but there's a handful of teams that run sort of a wide zone. Think about I don't know what the Shanahan offense used to be, not so much what it is today in its current form. And it can go back to this at any time, but what it used to be, this wide zone with play action passes. Caleb Johnson is a perfect fit for any of those schemes, right? And so that's where I want to see him land. Let me put it this way. Caleb's currently my number 3. I've had him as high as number 2, but after the combine, I had to put Omarion over him just based on athleticism and the somewhat limitations to Caleb's scheme fit, which is pretty much wide zone. So I'm thinking Browns, and for RB needy teams, I'm thinking Browns, I'm thinking Cowboys, and I'm thinking we'll see what Chip Kelly does in this go round in the NFL. But I'm thinking Raiders too, right? If we do skip on Janty in the first round and opt to go wide receiver, I'd be thrilled. I mean, I'd be over the moon if we took Caleb in the second round. But on the Cowboys and that new Schottenheimer scheme, on the Browns with Stefanski, who's got those, Kubiak Shanahan roots, he would fit in any of those. I've called him 69% Nick Chubb. Have him going in and fill in Nick Chubb's shoes would be just, more than perfect.
Yeah, that's a good fit. I think as we start to look in the 3rd and the 4th round, it's just littered with good spots for these guys, right? Like we've got Giants at the top of the 3rd. We've got the Chiefs there, the Browns, we got the Raiders, we got the Patriots. You see the Saints there. They're not that much of a spot, I guess.
You
but
know what's crazy about every
crazy.
running back landing spot, Trav, is it's a good or bad spot for somebody. It's a bad
Yeah.
spot for somebody. Like, it's like the person drafted, you're like, ooh, that's a bad spot for them. Or wherever they go, you're like, well, that's a bad spot for whoever's there already. Like, it's so weird, but it's going to be carnage. The fact that 20 running backs are getting drafted to this, like, because you can't find 20 open seats. That's not what you're finding. You don't have 20 open chairs. There's really not even 5 or 6. I mean, there's a few open chairs, but carnage is what's going to happen. And, it'd be clean. Like, obviously, we talk about like Omari and Hampton on the 1st to Pittsburgh. That makes their backfield clean. We know it's Omarion and then Warren is the backup or whatever. But like, it probably won't be clean. It'll probably be like DJ Giddens in the 4th. And it's like, what the fuck does that mean for any of these? It's just like muddy and weird. Jalen Warren, DJ Giddens, like I like them both. Giddens a little bit better profile, but he's never done it before. But it's just going to be messy like that. So my last one, and I'll leave you with this, is the 3rd round. And there's a few spots, but the 3rd round specifically for my boy Harold Fannin Jr. And hopefully pick 66, Kansas City, of course. Pick 69, nice to my New England Patriots. They're looking for a weapon. They do have Hunter Henry, but that will expire soon. There's a couple more. Hold on. Dallas is there in the 3rd round. Houston, sneaky spot for Harold Fannin Jr. in the 3rd round. They have 2 third-round picks, I believe, does Houston? Indeed, they do. The Rams are a little sneaky there. Obviously, if the Chargers don't do anything at tight end and they somehow go to Fannin, that'd be okay. But there's enough good spots there where I start to look up and down that 3rd round and hope that Harold Fannin Jr. can find a spot. Even Cincinnati might work. I know they just re-upped Gesicki, but a year behind Gesicki or alongside or something, and then next year he's the sort of pass game weapon like Gesicki, except better potentially. So I mean, there's a number of spots, but third round for
Miami,
Harold Fannin. Miami, right
just
to the heir apparent.
become Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, just
Maybe kind of
become
say.
Jonnu Smith. That's right.
Mhm.
Yes, there you go.
Okay, boys. So okay, this is going to be fucking fun. We're going to talk a little bit about the UN score. Of course,
Yes,
guys, we know that is our prospect model. It is a wide receiver prospect score that we are putting out every year. This is year 2, and the data goes back to 2018, and we could not be more excited to put this out. Of course, it comes out after the draft. Once we have draft capital is a big part of putting the final scores together. Shout out to Jay, who we mentioned before, Coder. He is the one behind it as far as crunching the numbers, putting the formulas in. He basically is stirring the cauldron that spits out the UN score. So year 2, you'll be able to get it through the shop at shop.undroppables.com. And what you're getting this year is not only the score, you're getting more this year. And I know that rhymed. I'm kind of a rapper, but no big deal.
sure.
This year, you're not only getting the score and the stats that you got last season, you're also getting some write-ups from the one and only Joe-Quavius Kuvatakis. And I can tell you that I have had the chance to look at some of these write-ups that Joe has had for some of these wide receivers, and it is crispy from a written perspective and in depth from an analysis perspective. So I know that you as a reader will do nothing but enjoy those as an add-on to the score data and everything that goes into it. And so just big shout out to you, Joe, for stepping up and doing that. We weren't planning on doing that, but you wanted to throw an add-on to the score this year. And so shout out to you, because it's not a small feat. I've been writing some articles myself on the True North side of things, and it takes me ages. And the fact that you've whipped out what you have in the time that you have has been phenomenal. So Joe, why don't you talk a little bit about what that has been like for you putting into the score, and do you think you might have a little bit of a sneak peek for the people?
Sure. Before I do that, Jax, why don't you give some color
Sure.
to the folks kind of on like what the model values, what it doesn't? Give them a little peek behind the scenes, because I think that that's like super helpful context. I genuinely believe we have the best model in the game. We had like some huge monstrous hits,
Yes.
and the model both like predicts success for certain types of players. It also predicts failure for certain types of players pretty damn well.
Yep.
And then it tells you kind of the 50-50 propositions based on their scores. So Jax, why don't you give a little color on that, and then I'll, toot my own horn
Yeah,
afterwards.
it's been really successful at pulling out some of the players, sort of finding the landmines. Like I look at like 2023, JSN wide receiver 1, Jordan Addison wide receiver 2, both scored very, very well in the model, but it's really the 3, 4, 5 that, like, once you hear it, like, you got to remember, this was the Jonathan Mingo class, this was the Quentin Johnston class, even Zay Flowers, who was good, it was his class, but it has 3, 4, 5 at Tank Dell, Rashi Rice, and Puka Nakua. And if you don't get excited when you see that it had that, now they're all in a similar spot, I guess, and but whatever the case, Tank Dell actually scored pretty well. But Dell, Rice, and Puka as 3, 4, 5. Now, no one would have told you, oh yeah, you got to draft in that order. It's more like, wait, these guys are pretty good. It's the same type of signal we're getting on Jaden Higgins right now. Is like, it's very likely that he's going to be a good NFL player. Some of the things that unearth these types of players is certainly targets per route run, which is just target rate, which is nothing crazy, but it does look at targets per route run. It looks at first downs per route run. It looks at, yards per route run. There's lots of stuff in there, but the first downs per route run, the targets per route run, those are some of the bigger ones that you kind of just don't always look at. Yards per route run obviously in there as well, but that first down and targets, there's also contested catch stuff in there that Jay Wood does a good job of sprinkling in without overvaluing it, because it didn't take away a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., but it did, like in this particular class where you have that 3, 4, 5 of Dell, Rice, and Puka, Jonathan Mingo was wide receiver 25, even though he was a first round pick. So we talked about this a little bit pre-show. The model doesn't overvalue draft capital. It actually does a better thing. It rather than give you points for being drafted in the first round, it takes away points for being drafted later. So, so a good player who's drafted early will be a good player. A bad player who's drafted early will still be a bad player. And then, everything kind of comes down from there. So it kind of suppresses through draft capital as opposed to elevating through draft capital. And the reason that's different is because if we feel like someone's being overdrafted, or if I should say the model feels like someone's being overdrafted, it doesn't save them with draft capital alone. It just suppresses them enough where it's like, dude, we still think he sucks. You know what I mean? And that was the case with a Jonathan Mingo. It's not like, it just was a bad bet. And so the model is littered with things like that. Like, I'll use one last example and let you guys go from here. But like in the 2022 class, it had Olave, London, and Garrett Wilson as 1, 2, 3. And players like Jamison Williams and George Pickens were ahead of Treylon Burks, who got pushed down, and so we see this type of thing where, Sky Moore also pushed down. We like small school guys. It liked Tank Dell. It likes Puka Nacua. It didn't like Sky Moore. It's just like, okay, well, there's probably something in there. And so, a lot of times we can get captivated by certain things. It was kind of the thing with Trey Harris. It doesn't overly love Trey Harris. And I think a lot of that is some of the historic stuff that I may be overlooking, that the model isn't overvaluing this one sort of 5th-year splash season, which I am because I'm human. So that the model helps us, right? The model helps us, just with another data point. And it's a really, really great data point. It will drop right after the NFL draft. We'll make it available for purchase and, give you the whole, all this data, all the way back to 16. You get
18.
when you 18, you purchase when you purchase. The data goes back basically to 16, which is where we have some holes in the data, which is why we can't go any further back really without it being a different model, quite frankly, because we don't have all of the contested catch data and things of that nature as we get a little bit older in our data.
Yeah, I think the most important thing that you just hit on, right? A lot of these models look at the same stuff, but
Of
I
course,
think
right.
what the beauty of Jay's model is that it approaches draft capital from the opposite angle. So like pre-draft last year, it had Troy Franklin really, really high, but after the draft unfolded, it dropped him down to the range that he should probably be in, right? And so that's kind of the beauty of this thing. But all right,
Well, and here's the other thing. It actually, Troy Franklin was the model's wide receiver 3. And that is like, okay, that led us to drafting Troy Franklin a lot, especially at value. But I'll give you one thing. So 2 players this past off season that we all bought back in on, that we advised buying back in on, was JSN and Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy was the more scary one, but I still was like, no, Jerry Jeudy, buy back in. And what happened with both those guys? They had breakout seasons. The reason I did that was because they were scored highly in the model. The reason I'm more hesitant to do that with Troy Franklin is 4th-round pick versus those 2 guys were both 1st-round picks. And so when you see the draft capital on a guy who's got a great model score, I just felt like, let's bet back in. So the guy in this class that I'd be doing that with is Rome Odunze, who was a 1st-round pick, was a good scorer in the model. He's not a bum in the model. So I'd be buying back in on Rome Odunze heading into year 2.
And I think to some extent, you could even say that with Marvin Harrison Jr.
Hell
And
yeah.
I think that what that tells you is that the score isn't just necessarily a tool that you're going to take into your rookie drafts. It's a tool that you can look back on and you can find some guys that you want to buy low on, maybe some guys that you want to sell high on if they scored lower in the score. And that's, it's a testament to why we're still saying that this is a Troy Franklin house, is because the model liked him before his draft capital knocked him down a little bit too, right? And we still kind of like him too, knowing the opportunity is not going to be there. Look at a guy, Joe, before I kick to you, like Tez Johnson right now, and Trey Harris. You mentioned that the model doesn't particularly like him. He's still the third best guy.
It doesn't hate him.
Yeah. He's still the third best guy in the class. And Tez Johnson is the 4th best guy in the class. So it's going to be interesting to see what their draft capital does to them, and us maybe liking them a little bit more than consensus because of what the model previously had said. So I love going through it. I love learning more about it as I've been talking to Coder, as I've been talking to you guys. And I hope that people who go out and buy it can get in the Discord and chat with us about it too. So Joe, without further ado, let us know what it's been like adding that written stuff to the process for the score.
Well, it's also real quick. It's also the reason we're screaming Lad McConkey from the rooftops, and
Yep.
that
Good
after like
point.
3 weeks of data, I was like, all right, everything the model thought about Lad is confirmed. Go out and buy Lad McConkey now because his price is never going to be lower. And that was like an easy move for me to make. And like, in week 4 of last season, I think I tweeted about this. I traded for him in 4 different leagues and was trying to get him in like 7 different leagues. The ones that didn't get him in the draft, and that paid huge dividends.
It
But
also had Jalen Polk as the worst wide receiver of the 3, Odunze,
yeah,
McMillan, and Polk. It liked Polk the least. The
yeah.
Patriots disagreed, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right. But so, what was missing last year and what we've added this year is a little bit of context on these players. So rather than just having a raw score, I kind of wanted to give folks an idea on who the prospect is, kind of how they're being viewed by the draft intelligentsia, as Jax likes to say. So here's just a quick little excerpt. And this is weird because I'm reading my own work live, but whatever. For Matthew Golden. Even before he ran a 4.29 40-yard dash, Matthew Golden was gaining steam. There are reasons for this. Traits, he has them. Athleticism, he has that too. He's a prospect with ideal size and weight who is a good separator on film, with good hands that showed up in big games in his final season at Texas. To the analytics community, Matthew Golden is probably the 2025 class's most confounding player. The Longhorn, by way of Houston's production profile, does not support his lofty draft capital. His yards per route run and targets per route run numbers are red flags, along with some other key metrics. As such, the UN model scores Golden at a 64.9. As a fantasy asset, that's a prospect that could swing in either direction. He may be one of those very useful NFL wide receivers that is not a reliable fantasy asset. We don't know, but the data is telling us that he's likely to be an overvalued asset in round 1 of your rookie drafts. We're always ready to be wrong, but there are simply better bets at lower rookie draft prices.
Bingo.
So stuff like that. I can't stand reading my own work like that. I've never done that before, but I didn't like it at all. Don't ever make me do it again, Trav.
Thank you for reading in front of the class, Joseph. That was very nice.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
No, that was good, Joe. And just a kind of a nice glimpse into what the people can see when they purchase the score. So thanks for doing that. I know it was awkward for you, but it was kind of a nice little look into something new that we've got. And there's a lot of new stuff happening with Undroppables. So keep it locked to all of our platforms, because I know that I am feeling the best that I ever have about the fantasy content that I'm a part of. And it's because of all the people that I'm doing with, and that's you guys. So boom, shakalaka. That's going to be $20 on the shop. So you can't really beat that for 20 bones. You get a really good look into a tool that you can use year round. So shout out to all the boys putting in the work there, guys.
Yeah, and by
Now
the
it's
way,
time.
all the money goes to the people who do the work. We don't keep
Yeah,
any money.
absolutely. And
It
into the
pays
brand or
Coder,
into
and
the product and
it
stuff
goes to
like
the
that.
people who
So
did it. So
yeah.
Coder gets, Coder, Dukes, there's a lot of work that goes into it. We just want them to have some money to get paid for their work. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of those things. So
Okay, a little teaser, boys. Dukes is an animal, and he sent me a
yes.
bunch of promotional material tonight. So I'm going to start making some promotional stuff, dropping some teasers on the socials, dropping some teasers in the Discord. So excited to get into the lab and make that here, fellas. So now it's just time for us to let our hair down and get into some of the shenanigans, guys, because the underground has commenced.
Mm.
The league to end all leagues. It is absolute debauchery and degeneracy already, gentlemen. We have started and are through, I think, 4 rounds in our official show draft. Are we calling this a listener league, Jax? Like, I know, like, it's like a pseudo listener league at this point, and I kind of like it that way because they're
But
dropping our
seven listeners.
taglines on us, which is fucking hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's great. What did I tell you from the beginning? I said I want us 3 and then friends of the show, whether it be part of our, the Undroppables, or listeners. Just fans. People who like what the hell we're doing. So all the guys that are in there are down with it. Even the guys like Marcus, who's part of the Undroppables, Dukes,
Dukes.
Curdy. They all listen to the show, and they're fucking throwing their own daggers at us on the show, which is great. After the show, they're making fun of us, and it's fun. We want to get made fun of. We want to make fun of each other. That's the whole point of the show. certainly having a lot of fun, and then trying to, have some sage dynasty advice to sort of mix in there every now and again. Dude, the draft was crazy. I don't even know where to start, to be honest with you. I don't know where to start. I mean, what do the people want to hear? I think number one is we disagree on this particular program as to who the Dynasty 101 is. I think it's Jaden Daniels, and I don't even really think there's much of a discussion. Like, I would not hesitate to smash Jaden Daniels at the 101, but you guys maybe feel a little bit different.
Hold on, before we get into like the meat and
Ooh,
bones, I want to give some shout outs because this
Do it,
league
please. Yeah.
is freaking
please.
lit. I love all these guys already. Like, I feel like I've never been more proud of our listeners and our show. The
Yes.
fact that like the group of dudes we have together, like, just it's so clearly our vibe, and I love it all so much. So shout out to JMac, shout out to K Troll, shout out to Matt Wiggins, shout out to Brian Thomas Sr.,
Yeah,
BTJ's dad.
BTS.
Yeah. Let's see. Shout out to Keegan. And then, of course, the other dudes at the Undroppables and Chris. So, what a fun. I hope I didn't miss anybody here, but
I don't
like,
think
what
so.
a fun group of dudes. Really enjoying the conversation. And like that's actually been the best part. Like, while we're waiting for picks, like what we've resorted to doing is making, we kind of tease it off the top a little bit, like low level terrorist threats.
Yeah,
Right?
that's right.
Right? Like Keegan, just snagged some lunch, probably the best service I've ever had. I left a 2.5% tip and told him I was waiting for some asshole to pick.
Yeah, exactly. I won't tip until the pick is made. That's
Yeah.
right. Yes.
Fantasy Dukes, our boy, the aforementioned Dukes.
Dukes was on a heater.
Oh my
Yes.
God, he was on such a heater. I'm gonna book a bunch of flights and stand up as soon as the plane touches down, then shoulder my way towards the front.
What an animal.
Yeah,
I was dying. J-Mac, I'll leave my blinker on all the way home, but never change lanes if you don't make a pick.
right.
Then I'll go park, feed the ducks right next to the sign that says "Do not feed the ducks."
Michael Mayer duck, I suppose.
Marcus,
Yeah.
our boy Marcus, my grandmother just fell over and broke her hip. I'm simply not calling the paramedics until a player is selected.
Savage. Oh, man.
Matt Wiggins, I'll make a divot on a green and I won't fix it.
I told him that one was too far.
Yeah.
I told him that one was too far.
Wiggins also. I'll freaking take my sweet ass time ahead of you on a golf course and I won't let you pass me. And when you ask, I'll just say, "What's the rush? Let's relish on what a beautiful day it is."
Yes. Until a pick is made.
Shout out to
I'm
Wiggins.
still
Shout out to Wiggins, fellow
Oh.
Canadian. Yeah,
Yes.
he's from Alberta. So shout out
So-
to my guy.
So, anyways, the vibes are immaculate, and
The vibes are immaculate.
I couldn't be more proud. And with that said, I think there are some low level terrorist threats happening right this second. I haven't even checked the chat yet, but I believe one Mr. Jax Falcone is on the clock. Should we do a quick recap of the draft before you make your selection?
The problem is my phone is like on 1%, so I might actually lose. Yeah, what?
Don't fuck around with 1%. If you don't make this fucking pick, I'm gonna stop smoking weed. Do you know what that would put my family through? Do you know what that would put my family through?
I don't believe
Jax-
that for a second. Not
Yeah.
for a second.
Low level. We're talking low level here, man.
Not going to happen.
All right. So yes, we were disagreeing, but like this, right? All right, back to the coin being in the air type of thing, right?
Yeah.
What this has made me realize is how much I need to update my dynasty rankings, because
Right.
the way I had done it previously was kind of like, all right, whatever, I have this guy or this guy, whatever, I have this guy or this guy, and I kind of just worked my way down the top, like 250 players, which is a terrible, miserable process, but it's kind of like point in time. How am I feeling that day? Then you get a look at, I feel like the primary app everybody's using for Dynasty right now is Sleeper, right? And so it should be more reflective of what Sleeper ADPs look like in a startup, as opposed to like what's the better Dynasty asset, right? So that way it's more helpful in a draft. So I know I got to change my rankings, but I realize it because I drew the number 2 pick off the jump, and I expected the number 1 pick to be Josh Allen. And number 2, I had Lamar Jackson, and I was looking at it, I was like, I think I'd rather have Jaden Daniels. I'm going to take Jaden Daniels here. And sure enough, Daniels goes number 1, and I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm taking Josh Allen then. But so like, anyways, I think that's what you were starting to say, Jax, but I derailed us with
No, that's okay. As a
with the
matter of fact,
shenanigans.
you made me think of something else because it's like you were talking about your rankings, and now you're getting into the stuff that I like to talk about. So this is gonna be fun. But so it's more about tiers, right? Because here's the thing: like I was looking at my rankings, and a couple of times I had like, well, this most recent play I made, I had moved around. I tend to trade back, and I didn't get a future first round pick, but I traded back enough where I had shoved. I think I had like 7 picks in the first 5 rounds or something like that, which is classic Jacks. And so
Yeah.
I had the 3-9 and the 3-10, and I had already picked 2 or 3 players, whatever the case was. I'm losing track here, but so I had the 3-9 and the 3-10, and I would have taken. I wanted JJ McCarthy right there. I wanted JJ and Rashi Rice, and AJ Brown's there, T Higgins there, Roma Dunze. It's a pretty good little tier, but the quarterbacks have been playing chicken. We had been playing chicken. There's only like 10 quarterbacks taken to that point. And like Kyler was there, Purdy was there, Jordan Love was there, Penix. There was a lot of dudes still on the board. And so I said, here's the gameplay. It's like I know there's a tier of guys that honestly, if I would have gotten stuck with Kyler or Jordan Love, I'm fine with it. So I moved down a full round from the 3-9 to the 4-9, picked up something, a second round pick and some capital later. And I still ended up with Rashi and JJ because then the quarterback run happened early 4th round where it just went, I think it was like 10 in a row or some crazy thing. It was Trevor
Seven
Lawrence,
in a row.
7
Yeah.
in a row. Pretty close. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence was part of that. Penix, Purdy, Love, Kyler, and that is a tier, right? That is a
Mayfield.
tier
Yeah.
because Mayfield, Baker, right? I like Baker too. I would have definitely taken Baker, especially in the
Yeah.
scoring setting. 6-point passing touchdown. There is points for completion percentage, -6 for pick 6. The rushing first down actually is okay for Baker. He skedaddles every now and again for a first down. So
Skedaddle.
thank you. Not too
That's
bad for
perfect for
him.
what Baker does. That's the
He
perfect
does, right? He
description.
doesn't scramble. He just kind of like, whoa, hey now, look at me go, first down. Um, you
Perfect.
know. So anyway, long story short, but that is a tier, and so understanding that tier, like, because you may put, where are you going to put like that tier ahead of the wide receivers or behind the wide receivers, Joe? When you're doing your ranking, who the fuck knows, right? Like really ahead, kind of, because it's
Mhm.
important to have that second quarterback. But when you're in a real draft, sometimes the quarterbacks just start popping off, and you're like, dude, I need to make
Yeah.
sure I get one of these guys before it goes back around and I miss out entirely or whatever the case. Whereas in this draft, it was the opposite. It was like, look, everybody's don't take a quarterback type of thing. And it like slowly pushed them down where you knew you could sort of do it. And then as soon as 1 went and 2 went, boom, 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 they all just went off.
Avalanche.
Yep.
Yeah,
Avalanche. Absolutely.
that's how I do mine too. And you'll notice at the bottom or at like towards the end of most of my rankings, you'll see a bunch of groupings of same positions, right? It's
Same.
because these are guys that belong in the same place. That when you look at the group of quarterbacks above them, the group of running backs above them, it's not on top of each other necessarily as the rankings show. It's more overlap like this with positions where you have
Yeah.
quarterbacks here. I know that this makes no sense to any fucking listeners that might not be watching the video right now, but
No, but it
you
does
have
make
like
sense.
It's
the quarterbacks
staggered tiers is what he's
and
describing.
4 in the tier above are
Yep.
probably equivalent to the wide receiver 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the tier below that might be a
Right.
little bit bigger or something like that, because you choose which position within those tiers. So when you do see some of our rankings and you see some of those positional clusters within the overall rankings, that's what we're doing there. Is some of these tiers are equivalent. Now I would say the first quarterback tier and the 7th quarterback tier are much different relative to the 2nd wide receiver and the 4th wide receiver tier, right? You're not interchanging all of those, but within
Well,
those rankings
Well, like I
overlapping.
think Brees Hall went in the 4th round, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the RB5 in this. Well, if you count Genty, the pick was 6 or whatever. But
Yeah.
no picks aside, Genty not in there, Omari and Hampton not in there. He was the RB5. The RB5 taken in the 4th round shows that the people are listening. They're listening. They know that the running backs are not the best early 1, 2, 3 round investment in a dynasty superflex startup. It just
And I
so
think
our
the
listeners are smart.
format's a big factor in this, right? Because there
Yeah.
is an extra half point per first down. Running backs don't get extra PPR. Wide receivers get an extra half point on top of the full. Tight ends get an extra full point on top of the full as well. So I think the format is lending itself to that as well.
Correct.
Whereas even some of these guys at the top, like Saquon Barkley was a late third round pick, Devon Achane late third round pick. I got Bijan Robinson at 203.
Yep.
And that never is happening in most drafts, right? And so I think the format, along with, of course, listening to the show, has been really good for these drafters.
Yeah.
Well, it's also, so it's start 11, 3 wide receiver, 3 flex spots, obviously a super flex with the big tight end premium that Trav just mentioned. But it was if I look at my super flex rankings, I've got I've got Brees somewhere around 23. When it came time to push the button, I had, the 3-4 turn because I'm pick 2 and it's the third round reversal. So I had, the second to last pick in the third round and the second pick in the fourth round. I passed 2 times.
Right.
I took T. Higgins over Brees, right? That's the wide receiver 17
Right.
over, he would have been the RB4 who I had, I still have him over Jonathan Taylor just based on age, but I was just like, in this format, I'd rather fill out these wide receiver slots before I start worrying about this running back slot. So
bingo.
That's what I was talking about, where I need to adjust my dynasty rankings to reflect what's happening in startups. But, it's kind of like, it's almost like there should be 2 separate sets of rankings, right? One is startup rankings.
Yeah.
And the other one
You're
is
right,
like
trade value
in
rankings.
season, trade value rankings, right? There should be 2 different dynasty rankings.
Yeah.
You know what? Someone write this down. We should put this on our website because I think that
Someone, do we have a producer somewhere? Someone write this shit down.
someone write this down.
Someone
Let's
keep
do
track of this.
startup dynasty rankings, in-season dynasty rankings, because I do think it's 2 different categories, and in the season it's completely different values. So
Totally.
I want the listener to just keep that in mind. You're in a different world in a startup and you got to gauge the market. I went into this draft thinking, all right, I want the highest pick possible. I'm going to trade down and extract value. Then Josh Allen fell to me at number 2, and no one was willing to pony up what it took to get Josh Allen. So I said, well, screw that. I'm not going to sell low on Josh Allen. I could sell him for more, in a month once the league has already started, right? There's no reason to sell low now. He's not worth any of these offers that I'm getting. I'm just going to take Josh Allen. I'm going to stick and pick. And I've kind of done that throughout because I realized that, I don't know if it's because of the listener league, people are, don't really want to trade with us that much, or they're a little bit worried, or it's just I don't know. I'm not really sure what the dynamic is exactly and what's going through each of their heads, but I haven't found any trades that I like. So I'm just sticking and picking.
Me too, man. Me too. And I think it's interesting because you and I have kind of adopted that strategy where Jax is textbook
Jax finds a way,
Miyagi.
dude.
He's
so
textbook
good. He's so good
Miyagi
at
on
this.
this.
It's so annoying.
He's so
It's so
willing
annoying.
to pull the trigger, and that's something that I've always respected about your game, Jax, is I consider myself probably more of a conservative player. I'm probably a fucking pain in the ass to make trades with, Jax. You can probably attest to that. Because I'm pretty risk averse and I get kind of attached to the team that I've already built, right? And I don't want to necessarily dismantle something that I think that I've done a nice job building, but I think I get too attached to that sometimes, and I'm not willing to just rock the boat and maybe allow something in the future to be nice for me, even if that one move doesn't get me to where I think I want it to be. So that's something I'm going to be working on this offseason. I think this is a good forum to do it, right? We're being transparent on the show, talking about some things that we want to do. So take a little bit more risk. That's something that I'm going to try and do this season, something that Jax does all the time. And that being said, I have loved how my stick and pick has worked in this draft. I do think there is a lot of bouncing around, and it's almost like the meme that you love, Joe, where the dog is sitting with the coffee in the room that's on fire. I'm just kind of sitting there with my coffee, just chilling. It's fine. There we go. Yep. Taking the guys that are falling to me. And Bijan Robinson, guys, I probably wouldn't have taken him at the 203 if we didn't have the points per first down in this draft. But I took a look, did a little bit of digging, and saw that Bijan was 4th in the league in both receiving and rushing first downs for running backs. And I thought that was kind of nice to have a stalwart there. Now I don't have to worry necessarily about it because I have that stalwart and I know I'm going to feel good about the guy that's at the top of my running back depth chart. But then we look at the 110. I took Malik Neighbors.
Love that.
Dude, it was so awesome when he fell to me. It was going to be him or BTJ. And I got to say that we have sharks in this fucking league, guys, because
Yeah.
K-Trull is shortly behind me. He's at the 112. He had the 112 and the 201. He absolutely is lighting this draft on fire. He did some sort of trade, I don't have it handy right now, where he had another pick before that, where he picked up CD Lamb
He
and
His
traded into the
3.01.
111.
Yeah.
into the
Well, no,
111
no.
above. Okay, tell me.
Wait, real quick. He traded into the 111 right before his 112 and 201 turn. And he went bang, bang, bang.
So
CeeDee
good.
Lamb, Amon Ra, and BTJ.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God, dude, I just came for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
That
that was
was
Totally.
great.
awesome. That was
I was
awesome.
reeling. I was after that pick, and I was thinking I had a really nice shot at getting Neighbors and BTJ with both of those picks, because there was like kind of what you did with the quarterbacks, Jax, right?
Yeah.
Amon Ra was there, CD was there, and I was like, okay, there's two guys, and I'm up in 5 picks. BTJ might fall to me in a super flex draft. Did not happen. I wasn't necessarily reeling as in I didn't know what to do, or I didn't want to necessarily pivot from that. Reeling because what K-Trull just put on the board with those 3 wide receivers in a points per first down and a 1.5 per reception for wide receiver league was absolutely immaculate. So shout out to him for that. These guys are all super sharp. Another thing that told me that he is sharp, we got to look out for him, guys. He tried to acquire my 110 without giving up the 112 or the 201. And I love him for that, because that's a move where you're trying to gouge and you're trying to get that squeeze. And I had nothing but respect for that move coming back. And so I love it, man. These guys are already wheeling and dealing. And I don't think they're necessarily averse to trading with us, buddy, because I've got some pretty decent offers from these guys that I've had to ponder. But the stick and pick has just gotten me, because I also like to win. And
Yeah.
I think I want to try and take a shot at this bad boy.
Yeah. Maybe they're too sharp. All right, so let's do a quick recap. Not the whole draft, but so far, Trav, you got Neighbors
Yes.
at 110. You got Bijan at 2.03. You got CJ
Oh my
Stroud
God. We
fell
got to talk
all
about
the
this.
way to 3.03.
303 for
That's
CJ
a
Stroud
money spot for
in
CJ, dude.
in
I
a
was
league
jealous. I was
with
jealous.
-6 for pick sixes. CJ Stroud is not one who's going to give up a ton of those. He's pretty safe with the ball. He's got some good wide receivers. He's got longevity on his side. I think the most important thing that we have to talk about that pick wasn't necessarily that I made it. It's the person who didn't make it, and the person that they took merely 5 picks beforehand, and that would be one Mr. Jax Falcone,
Hmm.
who risked it for the biscuit and went for
Yep.
one Bo Nix ahead of CJ Stroud, who has been a previous heartthrob of yours, Jax, and you
Yeah.
took Bo Nix at the 209.
Yeah. So I
right.
picked back to back at the 209 and 210, right in front of Kuvatakis. And, I was calling my consigliere, and we were considering taking, and I say we, the royal we, mainly me. I was considering taking the Stroud Nico stack right there. So that was very much in play for me at that 29 210. The biggest deciding factor for me were 2 things. Number 1 is, as much as we like to suck off CJ Stroud, he hasn't really ever been a quarterback 1. His rookie year was good. Last year was okay, but actually Bo Nix was a top 7 quarterback his rookie year. He also has rushing upside. His first year in the league was a higher completion percentage than CJ Stroud, either of his 2 years. He's got the rushing upside, as I mentioned. The rushing first downs do count in this league. He scored almost 400 points in this format. So that was number 1. Number 2 was, I thought Drake London, being quite a bit younger, I think he's 23 versus Nico's either 26 or 27. I just thought, if I'm going to take one of these 2 guys, I think they're very similar in both in terms of value and projected production. I wanted to lean youth. So I thought, rather that, I'll take Nix and London. But I love Stroud Collins, as Kuvatakis went Collins but couldn't double him up because he didn't have a pick again until 311. In that case, he would have to make some sort of crazy trade. But I was fine with your pick at Stroud, loved it. And you also basically, the aforementioned move that I made to sort of go from Rashi Rice, JJ McCarthy later in the 4th, right before you picked at the 410, it went Kyler Murray, Purdy, a couple of picks, Love, McCarthy.
To you.
Then you picked
And then
Penix.
I took Michael Penix right after that.
Yeah.
He's the next youth quarterback with some upside, right? When we look at the next guys that went, we're looking at Baker Mayfield, fantastic, but we could have just seen the best season we're ever going to see out of Baker Mayfield in Tampa last year. Bottom could fall out of that, and I don't want to be a part of it. Jared
All right,
Goff
so
was in the running. Jared Goff was in the running. The age was there, but he is a stalwart and safe and does not throw a lot of interceptions. Another dynamite pick by K-Troll at the 412. So
and the
Lawrence
5-1.
Lawrence at 5-1 and Prescott at 5-2. And so that run was pretty legendary.
But K-Troll ends up with CD, Amon-Ra, BTJ, Goff, and Trevor Lawrence. A very, very solid start.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So real quick, I just want to finish the recap. So thus far, Trav has Neighbors at 110, Bijan at 2.03, Stroud at 3.03, Penix at 4.10, and Worthy at 5.03. Let's just do me next because mine's easier because like Trav, I haven't made
all
any
over the board.
I haven't found any trade partner. So Allen fell to me the 1.02. Very happy to take him. Nico Collins, I've got as my wide receiver 5 in Dynasty. Maybe I should move him down a little bit, but I'm like super thrilled to get him at the 211. Then at the 311, AJ Brown fell to me. And this is another one where Jax had like the 2 picks ahead of me. He traded one of them. But anyways, long story short, AJ Brown fell there. That's too far. I know he's going to be 28 in the 2025 season. And so, there's questions about how much runway we have. But once you got Josh Allen and Nico Collins, I'm like, fuck it. This is a win now team. This is the way the board fell to me. I can't leave this value on the table. So I'm taking Nico. I'm taking AJ Brown. And then at the 4.02, this was my big decision point that I talked about earlier where I was like, do I take a running back here? Do I take Breece Hall? No, I think I really want to just take another super solid wide receiver and was thrilled to take T. Higgins. I was actually thinking about taking T. Higgins where the AJ Brown pick was because T. Higgins actually outscored AJ Brown on a per game basis last year. And we talked about this a few weeks ago. The setup of the Bengals having re-signed Chase, Burrow, and Higgins basically handicaps them on defense. And I think it's just going to be a scoring bonanza. So I was thinking about Higgins at the 311 just from a long-term play standpoint, but I was like thrilled that it fell to me that at 4.02. All right, now Jax is the one that's made a bunch of moves. He's managed to trade. I think all these fanboys just want to make trades with Jax. And
I would argue the
or
opposite.
maybe I'm too stingy. I don't know.
No, I would argue
I definitely am.
I would argue the opposite because I would say that normally the strategy that I employed here would have netted me a greater profit. I think everybody was like, I'm not letting you get the best of me. I really had to, because I send out trades that I feel like are fair, but I win. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, but I don't send out trades that I think, this is like, I sent one to you that was bullshit and you called me on it. I was like, congratulations. But like,
shout out Kemp.
Sometimes for sure, shout out Kemp. But I sent one to you. Sometimes I do that too, where it's like almost ridiculous, where it's like, sometimes people will look at it and be like, well, that's stupid, but I kind of like the idea. And then they'll counter themselves from that deal closer to their favor, but still ends up in my favor type of thing. Or it just gets the conversation started, which it did.
Jedi mind tricks won't work here.
Jedi mind tricks 101. And then I sent you a different, totally different trade, but I knew you were paying attention and we could have some back and forth. And ended up, I made a different trade. But, I'm sending all these deals. And one thing that I did in this one, and this is important if you're a Dynasty Game Theory advocate and fan, is the reason that I moved back. I would have loved to have moved back and gained a 2026 first round pick. I just wasn't able to do it. So I would move back and I would move some of the capital up a little bit. So, an 8th round pick goes to a 5th round pick or whatever. I'm making, I'm moving stuff up, so I'm moving a 12th round pick to a 10th round pick. I'm moving a, 7th round pick to a 5th round pick. So here I am at the 5.05. I'm on the clock and I already have 5 players. I have Bo Nix, JJ McCarthy, and I have 3 dope receivers. I have Drake London, Marvin Harrison, and Rashee Rice. So
pause real quick right there. I just want to summarize because I noticed this too as we were going. Jax, what he's been doing is getting incrementally better. He is grinding the margins. He has added a few second round picks with some of these trades for next season. He's added a few second round picks. No one's willing to give up those first. They haven't been easy to come by. But so he's been getting those seconds. and he's been marginally making his team better both this year and for next year's draft. So that's the point he's trying to make. It's just this like grinding the margins, which like, that takes dedication, time, and focus. And like, I haven't given that, and I've kind of just like, whatever. I'm just going to take Nico Collins. Fuck you. Right. But I do appreciate what you're doing. So sorry to interrupt, but I just
that's
want
exactly
to point
right.
that out. That's like, I wanted to
I do. I have three.
that.
I have 2026 seconds. I have all my future picks. But here's the key, right? So you think, well, you didn't get a first round pick out of all these moves back. It's like attorneys general. Anyway, yeah, these moves I haven't netted a first round pick, but here I am already with 5 players on the clock at the 5.05, and as of right now, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 first round picks have been taken for 2025.
Give me your team so far.
Okay, Joe or Jax, can we write a name down on a sticky, and before you press the button, we'll show it, and then you press the button.
Game.
Can we do that?
Go for it.
We'll take. You keep talking. But
well, I'm gonna give it away here in about a second because I'm about to pick.
Hold on.
So I can't talk too much more, or you would get it.
Give me your team so far. Tell the people your team so far.
Again, I've got Bo Nix and JJ McCarthy. And then I have Drake London, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Rashee Rice. As I mentioned, so I guess I need, quote unquote, a running back, if you will. Sure, I could take a running back.
Foreshadowing.
I could take a running back.
Going wide receiver.
I also just mentioned that one of the things I didn't get out of the trade backs was a 2026 first round pick. However, I already have 5 players rostered in 5 rounds, but I'm also at the 505. So here is my extra courtesy bonus pick that I'm going to take the 1.06.
Oh, yes, I like that.
And put it on my roster because now I still have 5 players, and that's where I pick up my first round pick. So now I got my first round pick plus my 5 players. It feels like I got an extra first round pick because I have 5 players plus a pick. So I'm picking a kicker. Let's make sure I don't fuck this up.
Which kicker?
For those who are not on YouTube, I held up a little poster that said first round pick.
Yeah.
He margined his way to a first round pick.
Right.
Grinding the margins, and it's a beautiful thing. And that's going to be a top 5 running back in this class, most likely.
Correct. 106 tight end premium. I think Tyler Warren is going to get some push up. Cam Ward
is going to go. You might be a top 3 running back.
It could be. It could be. You never know. So at the end of the day, I'm going to feel really good about that pick. Maybe even to trade it. But it's going to be liquid value. I feel really good about taking that pick there. I don't pick for a while, so I'll either have to trade back up or relax for a minute. So I'm going to relax and then see what happens.
I'll say you pick for first.
I'm fucking ready. Dude. I'm always ready. I'll give me the 1.06 for it right now.
Oh, boys.
Dude, I can't wait.
Yeah, this is fun, boys. I think we're going to wrap on that. This has been a fun rundown, a bunch of different things covered. Lots of good conversation with the boys, and cannot wait to get deeper into this draft because we'll be recapping that throughout the season, talking about some of our hits, our misses, some bad beats when the time comes.
The Foie Gras Invitational, hell yeah.
The Foie Gras Invitational, very good. Yeah, so thanks to all of our listeners for sticking it out. Of course, check that Discord, go to the YouTube, make sure you are subscribed there where you can keep up with all of that stuff that we've got. And then Uncovered_NFL is our second channel for that real NFL coverage. And we are on the fantasy channel. So thanks to everybody who's been supporting. Thanks to everybody who's in the group chats, the Discord, the league chat. It's been a great time getting everybody surrounded around this show, and it's only the beginning. This is episode 15, boys. Not necessarily a milestone, but sort of like a roundish number. So kind of dope. And like I said, just the start. So for one Jax Falcone and Mr. Joe Kuvatakis, I am Trav. We will see you next week. The draft is next week, guys. Get fired up. Peace.
Yeah, tonight on berating Trav and his dietary choices, well done steaks.
Yeah, Trav made the mistake of telling the boys that sometimes he'll just make dinner for the kids and eat a couple bowls of cereal after they go to bed. Boy, did he not hear the end of that.
Nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong with a bowl of cereal at the end of the night. That's actually like my preferred dessert at this point. Like, and I've gotten so old that it's just good old like cornflakes will do it for me. I'm just like, yeah, this is just as good as ice cream to me.
So when I was a kid, I had a bowl of Fruity Pebbles like every night, a big fucking bowl of Fruity Pebbles. I loved Fruity Pebbles. I ate the fuck out of Fruity Pebbles. And then like I get them for the kids once or whatever, and then I'm like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna have that big bowl of Fruity Pebbles. I get the Fruity Pebbles. It's fucking gross.
Fruity Pebbles have like the quickest like
Gelatinous.
like, soggy ratio
Yes.
like, imaginable. They become
Yes.
soggy very fast.
Fruit Loops is goated, especially over Fruity Pebbles. Like Fruity Pebbles can fuck off compared to Fruit Loops.
I mean, you don't have to get personal. I mean, I just said when I was a kid I would eat these things. Now you're telling me I can go fuck myself over a fucking Fruity Pebble when I was a kid? This is 40 years ago, pal. That's like a Cookie Crisp.
Yeah. Coated in sugar.
Did you just fucking Cookie Crisp?
No. I'm still talking about Waffle Crisp.
I know. I'm saying I'm dovetailing. Waffle Crisp has the same thingy that you're describing as Cookie Crisp. You going Captain Crunch? CAP''N, baby.
Captain makes it happen, man. The captain really makes it happen.
I don't know if I have a top 5.
All right, Switzerland, huh? If you don't like the cereals that much, if you just like the mustache, right? Yeah.
Have you ever tried the Swiss chocolate pebbles?
There's little holes in them.
There's little holes in them, he says.